the most lied things are taboos, and the means by which most lies are constructed is under the pretense that a taboo is truth. I falsify everything, especially taboos and vested interests, because those are the things we don't discuss, which means they're the things that supply the greatest amount of empirical information if we understand. In social science, what things are producing the greatest source of ignorance, yet the discovery of which would produce the greatest returns? And it's those things we can't talk about: the sacred, the conventional, and the taboo. So if you want to learn human nature, do you ask ordinary questions? Or do you ask the things that you're afraid to talk about, it's rude to talk about, or you don't even realize you're doing?
Sounds like the latter to me. That way you get some real information.
So if you're Curt and you want to get to the truth of the hard questions, you create controversy by prosecution of the sacred, the conventional, and the taboo. In other words, the things that you refuse to look at, the sacred, offensive reasons, the things you look at as taboos for defensive reasons, and the conventions that you assume because they're just normal or metaphysical. But in order to understand the sacred, the conventional, taboo, which are the sources of ignorance that belie the actual things that matter to you, your group evolutionary strategy, your class strategy, your individual strategy, that's all hidden underneath the sources of ignorance we call the sacred, the conventional, taboo. And like many things, if you actually talk about them, it means they're underminable. So the reason why you avoid them is because you don't want them able to be undermined. So the reason we protect the sacred, conventional, taboo with moralism is we are trying to prevent inspection of them that would open them up to critique and criticism and rational argument and scientific defeat. Because a lot of the sacred, conventional, true are actually not true. They're ways of you preserving a group evolutionary strategy that's a secret. It's a state secret, so to speak, for your culture. And so I'm trying to discover the state secret of your culture to figure out what's gone wrong so that I can look at all cultures to be able to figure out what are the first principles by which these cultures act. The more they depend on the sacred, the conventional, the taboo, the more they are afraid of the exposure and rationalization and criticism of those things, the more that those things are dependent on falsehoods, the more they're going to hate you.
So they're going to double down.
Because of the layers of false promises, lies, and traditions and conventions and taboos and sacrednesses. The sacredness that we call race, the taboo we call race, the sacredness we call equality, the taboo we call it. These are all lies that prevent us from finding the underlying truth that would allow us to construct the good from the true. I have to attack every sacred cow on the fucking planet and make an enemy of every freaking person.
That's what I was going to say. It makes you so exceedingly popular.
I mean, it's just like, you know what? But I'm like, if there's a sacred cow, why? Well, some sacred cows are really good, but some are really, really harmful. And some of them are there to cover a very bad thing. So you have to attack a lot of sacred cows. And that's because most of them are only half true. They are emphasizing a pretentious good, but they're enabling an unpretentious bad. And so that's the problem with most sacred cows. They're two-sided because you wouldn't be necessary if you were purely empirical.
It's like a form of virtue signaling to distract you, right?
Yep.
Like,
yep.
Don't see what's happening over there.
Yes, exactly. It's the prestige. Look. So I'm well aware of how am I going to ever be popular if what I've done is slaughter every race, civilization, culture, nation, classes, sacred religion.
I'm going to give you a prize.
Sacred
like
cow.
You're the singularly most rude man I've ever run into. That's a feather for your hat, brother.
Fuck. I'm like, gonna be like, well, how are you gonna be popular? I'm like, I don't know, man. It's like Darwin was only popular because he enabled the empowerment of the academy. Right? He empowered the academy to separate from the church. How am I going to get to be popular? At least evolution was a little bit distant. You're slaughtering some sacred cows over there.
They're right handy. They're very close. How about tightly held?
And we all have them. So this goes back to why I'm increasingly unhappy about what I've learned lately.
Sorry, Curt.
Seriously, I don't like it. I like my nice Christian utopian instincts. I like my nice Anglo-libertarian instincts. They make me happy. They're optimistic. I don't like this. We have to go to the patriarchy because somebody's got to be responsible. And that's all it means, is that somebody's got to be the adult in the goddamn room, because otherwise everybody degenerates into children. I don't like any of that. It really bothers me. In the course of my work, I've burned far more of my own sacred cows, sacrificed more of my own sacred cows than anyone else's. It's a completely unpleasant process.
It's very unpleasant.